Hi, good
Supposed
evening.
to leave. Oh, sorry.
Hi, good evening, everybody. We're live, 7 p.m., 1/19/2022. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please. Aye.
Aye.
I think that's all we need, right? Okay, so we're getting off of this, going into, do we come back to this once we go? We
Yes.
come back to this Zoom. Okay.
And I'll be
So
holding down the fort with the chief.
Okay, so we're taking this out of here and we're going to the one that Stuart sent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Jamie.
Rita,
Jamie, are we live?
we are, but I have to bring Stuart over. It looks like he's having some trouble. Yes,
Oh.
we're still live.
Okay,
Um,
I gotta bring the agenda up. Give me a minute. 7:28. Have another minute. I will. Hello, Stuart.
Hello.
Okay, I think we are ready to go. One more minute and we're ready.
I don't think Trustee Lopez has joined you yet.
Look, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Hello again, Kevin. Thank you, Maddie, for the flag. Hello, Martha. The Board of Trustee appointments. Let me look those up separately.
Recording in progress.
Eh. Okay, is he not on yet? I don't see him. Well, we have a quorum. I guess we can start. 7:31. Okay, let's start. I'm sure he'll be on shortly. It's not like him. Great. Good evening, 7:31, 19th of January, 2022. Welcome to legislative session. We're going to pledge allegiance and then start the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, trustee Fritchie,
Present.
trustee White,
present.
trustee Quesada,
Present.
and trustee Lopez still hasn't come in, right?
He was on before, so something must be up. We'll text him in a little bit, but let's just keep going and then
And then Mayor Levin.
here.
Okay, we're going to have mayors and trustees announcements.
Okay. Manny, do me a favor and text Omar and see what's happening. He might have an announcement. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to ask him yet. So, trustees, anyone have announcements? I'm not aware of any, but let me just see if something's happened during the day. Not seeing any. I'm sorry.
I have none.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank the staff because apparently our courtroom, not everyone goes to our courtrooms because many people stay away from our courtrooms, but apparently we redid the floors in the courtrooms and I got feedback that they are really looking great. I also bring to my fellow trustees, one of my things is that I, as a trustee, and did a little bit of it last year. I actually go see each of the judges at some point. I think it's a good exercise to see a session. Hello, Trustee Lopez. We're getting a little worried. You might want to look at the new floors and watch some of the judges in action. They're public meetings. So some of, I would highly recommend it. I'm not going this week, but I'll probably be there the following week or the week after that. So I'm just going to take the opportunity to thank both the staff for finally, after many years of redoing the floors there. It looks lovely. And, always trying to make enhancements to our facilities around our community. Trustee Lopez, I asked if anybody has announcements. Do you?
No.
Okay. So we're gonna stay short on announcements. I did not do this last time appropriately. I wanted to publicly and in a better and more formal way state my great regard for Assemblywoman Galoff, who after many years of serving our community in so many ways, has decided not to run after many years of running. I'm sure she will remain active. She has been a tremendous friend. And in this year, I am assured will remain a diehard fan of the village and its needs to improve people's lives. And that she will continue to be helpful to the end of her term in 2022. She and I happen to run always on the same cycle. So I will be missing that point, but I do want to thank her publicly on behalf of all of us for the great work, support, and she has been a mentor to many people who serve in government, both on staff and electeds, many of whom have gone on to other career paths. So I appreciate that very much. And I'm sure there'll be more from her office and about her in the coming months. I think that is all I have because I think the village manager will be updating us on a number of things. One little piece of sort of business, if you will, one of the things I do in the beginning of the year is look at our volunteer boards. I would suggest that folks who are interested, maybe things have happened in your life, maybe you're new to the community, to continue to sort of raise your hand if you want to volunteer on our boards. We have about a dozen of them. Some very interesting board. The Board of Ethics is looking, the environmental is looking, a couple of land use boards that the village manager appoints folks to. So we will be appointing some more people later today, but I want to take the opportunity to encourage people to call me, to call any member of the board, to call the village manager, to hear more about the volunteer boards and maybe have an interest. Jamie Hoffman collects resumes and has lots of information about each of the boards and its liaisons. And so I just wanted to put in a little shout out to both the people who are appointed today, but also hopefully get some more folks involved in the volunteer boards. So I think, Martha, you are up.
Okay, administrative reports, village manager Karen DeTore.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. So I just want to give a brief update on our downtown revitalization initiative efforts. Last Friday, we had representatives from the state and the planning consulting firms who will be overseeing the DRI process. They were here to visit the project sites, and we were joined by Mayor Levin and Trustee White, as well as staff members. We were lucky to have good weather, and that enabled us to walk the commute from the community center down Main Street to the waterfront and back up along the Sing Sing Co walkway so that we could provide a thorough tour of the projects identified in our DRI proposal within the DRI boundary area. yesterday, we had a virtual meeting with the same group to discuss logistics and next steps, which involves the establishment of a local planning committee, which is currently being reviewed by the state right now. So we should have updates about that soon, along with plans for community engagement, an open call for projects, and the creation of project profiles and project budget estimates that will ultimately be used to allocate the $10 million amongst the selected projects. Ossining received high praise from our state representatives for having well-organized and well-developed projects, which speaks to the collective hard work of our elected officials, our community stakeholders, and staff who have been working to secure this funding not just this year, but for the past 6 years. We will be keeping you apprised of all new developments on our DRI frontier, and as well as dates for upcoming meetings and community engagement sessions, which will occur over the next 6 months. Thank you.
If I may add, that was your report, right? If I may just add, first of all, always great, even in the middle of winter, to walk around and look at different sections of community centers where we started. Trustee White always got her, sort of addendums as to the history, which is just fabulous, to really keep us rooted in our history as we move forward into the future. It's exceedingly helpful, I think, to all that we're concerned. It adds a great touch. It's also, and it's highly informative, it was also helpful because it was very clear to me, and I'm speaking now just for myself, that, we talk about how we got the funding, but in fact, it really is a state project of really an interest that they have in improving beyond just Ossining, but actually to include Haverstraw, to really look at a regional picture. That's their desire. Ours, of course, is to improve the lives of the folks in Ossining. And there is a huge common ground happening here. I found that actually a bit of an exciting piece to learn and to really have that hammered home. It's actually pretty exciting because we don't think in terms of a region when we're in local politics. We focus on the village, really only on the village, but this is an opportunity also to think in terms of a regional aspect. So that was a nice learning for me, and it was pretty, I don't want to use the word fun, but it was exciting to see our village. It's exciting to introduce others. I was very close to get at least 2 of those folks to move to Ossining. Very close, but we'll get there too. And the staff was great. We were actually really prepared, and by we, I mean the staff had done a great job preparing. So I'm excited, and we are going to keep the community engagement part as top of mind as we go through this. We've already done a lot of work about that. It was also fun to hear that Kevin Dwarka, who we have worked with in the past, is part of the state's choice of consultants. And I always enjoyed working with him. So I'm seeing lots and lots of upsides to all of this. All the work we've done in the past few years, the work we're doing last year or this year, I'm seeing only a way up on this. So I'm excited. Anyway, that was just my additional 2 cents to the managers. I thought you were going to mention what a great job the staff did on the snow removal and the ice and all that. So I'll just put it out there anyway, because
they did do a great job at that. So I
might
will
have to
give
do that
shout
again
out.
soon, Karen.
And they're going to be working early this morning too. So shout out to them. They do an excellent job. They were out salting and conditioning, and they'll be out this morning. So yes, I was remiss, and we are grateful.
No, you weren't remiss. Just taking an opportunity. That's all. Anyway, I think we're going, Martha, to Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, folks. As I advised the board earlier today, the extension on remote meetings is continued by legislation until February the 14th. The way the legislation is written, it will extend if the governor issues an extension of her executive order, the extension of the remote meetings will follow that. But once the executive orders expire, so will the extension. So right now we're up to February 14th. We'll see what happens. Thank goodness Governor Hochul is not as prolific in emergency orders, executive orders, as the former governor was. With COVID, he was up to 100 and I think 15, 116. So far, we're only up to 11. So we're doing okay. There is a planning board meeting on Tuesday. It is a full agenda. Again, if anyone wishes to watch, they can go to the village's website, find the Zoom information. All the application materials are online, and you're all welcome to see that. Otherwise, Co-op Council is just continuing with the assistance of paralegal Lisa Ferguson to get things done, review contracts, look at recent legislation that has been passed from the state legislature and signed by the governor. There was a recent change, not a change, but sort of a codification as to what exactly is a public body. And I've actually asked the Committee on Open Government for an opinion as to whether that applies to some of our advisory councils. And I hope to have an answer from the Committee on Open Government, hopefully within the next couple of days, so that we can be specifically and be clear as to which advisory committees come under open meetings and which do not. And that's where we are.
Great. Thank you, Stuart Kahan. Martha?
Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. I'll start my report with a little bit of a statistical wrap up for 2021. In the past year, we answered 28,769 calls for service, down just a touch from the last few years before that. We made 330 arrests in total, which is down about 50% from the 2017-2018 pre-pandemic rate. Much of that attributed to either the pandemic or the legalization of cannabis, which prevents a lot of investigations from going forward. Quite a few of our arrests began with cannabis and with other charges. When that happens, a lot of arrests are eliminated. We issued 1,236 traffic tickets, down significantly, but keep in mind that during a pandemic and social distancing being a priority, there's quite a bit of time where officers were either advised to use discretion to the best of their ability or just holding back on sticking their faces in people's windows when it was absolutely at its height. So I can tell you from daily monitoring of traffic tickets now that productivity has increased by multiples. Looking forward to a higher number and more targeted projects in the year 2022. We issued 17,104 parking tickets because those don't require you to be face-to-face with anybody, and they're much easier to issue without getting sick. More on this year. This year, our big focus is going to be changing the way we engage with young people. We've had a number of meetings with the school district, and we have a number of programs that we're going to be rolling out, still putting final touches on them, but things that you can expect to see are extensive programming in the schools. A lot of things we've been doing at night and on the weekend, we now plan to be doing during the school day at the invitation of the district. So kids can expect to see us both in their classrooms at recess and in some of their extracurriculars. We're also going to be right now we have on the calendar potential for 2 block parties. We'd like to bring those back if the CDC allows us to and pandemic decides to pipe down enough for us to get outside. And we're looking at the return of our bike days, which was relatively successful for a one-time event, but something that we're going to try and do with some lessons learned and make those even better as some outdoor activities for people to do in Ossining. Today, we filmed our first event at Claremont School. That'll be released on Friday morning to the students first. So once they get a look at it, the board can see it after that, but kids have first dibs on that. As far as training this month, we're going to dive into a whole host of trainings, working with the personnel office. We've assigned our staff to 15 different trainings that they'll be attending virtually, which can eliminate a lot of the in-person costs for doing those things. But in terms of in-person, over the next 2 weeks, we'll begin our first evolution, which is CPR and first aid. So we have to recertify every officer every year for those, and those begin soon. We're also assisting the Ossining Public Library right now with a comprehensive review of their emergency plan, which they do every couple of years, looking at ways to keep their staff and their visitors safe. And today we were notified that our DWI enforcement grant through Westchester County will be renewed. So that's it's a grant that's been around for many, many years. It doesn't pay very much money, but it provides for a little bit of reimbursement for overtime for strategic enforcement of impaired driving. Last, I just got an email asking for tomorrow morning for me to appear on News 12 at 4:30. So if anybody wants to know what the weather is, I've got an invite there and I'll be Zooming live with whoever is on the anchor desk in the morning. So
What's the topic?
The weather, I'm sorry, I said the weather.
To have you speak? Oh, because it's because of the weather conditions?
Because I'm
Okay.
the cop that stands outside at 4 a.m. and tells you that it's snowing outside.
Ah, okay. All right. Great.
That's all for me. Thanks.
Any questions, comments? Martha? Were you laughing at his comment or something else?
No, I was laughing because I remember when I was young in high school, I used to watch those videos of you out in the snow, and I always used to wonder who that was. And then I started working, and I was like, oh, now I know who it is.
Ah, the man himself. Okay.
Moving on to organization announcements. Announcements shall be event related only and should be no longer than 2 minutes. If you would like to make one, please raise your virtual hand.
Not seeing anyone?
Okay, is there anybody here from the public who would like to make, who would like to address the board on any of the following resolutions on the agenda? If so, please raise your virtual hand.
I think there are. We have 2 attendees. I'm not seeing a hand though.
Yes, we have one. I'm going to bring.
Oh, there it
Mr.
is.
Garrity- I'm going to bring Mr. Garrity over. Hold on just a moment.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Eric, I'm going to bring you over. You can turn your camera on if you'd like. Okay.
Okay. Not seeing him yet.
It takes some time.
Oh, okay. There he is. Still, oh, there he is. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, you're on.
All right. I would like to comment this evening on Resolution J. We were disappointed to learn that the village intends to deny the cabaret hours as requested in our application, the very same hours that we have been approved for and operating under since opening our doors in 2018. Although rare, Sing Sing Brewery extends its hours throughout the year to accommodate for private events and participate in holiday celebrations. Several of the most financially impactful days of the year, like Memorial Day and Labor Day, specifically fall on weekdays, and other holidays like July 4th and New Year's Eve vary from year to year. We take very seriously our role in the community and make every effort to be a good neighbor to those in our downtown. We have invested heavily in our soundproofing measures and regularly monitor a dB meter during performances. That being said, live music does not necessarily mean loud music. We often host low-key performances that don't even prevent customers from carrying on a conversation. If quality of life is the issue, then there are regulations already in place. The village code is very specific about noise levels. The cabaret license does not exempt one from complying with those noise ordinances. If the issue revolves around a few bad actors, why then are all businesses hours curtailed? If they refuse to follow the noise regulations in the past, how is limiting our hours going to suddenly bring them into compliance? Thanks to a growing number of businesses, our downtown had been gaining steam and transitioning into a Hudson Valley destination. More and more younger residents have either moved here recently or are choosing to come back after college. This board should make every effort to encourage Ossining nightlife and prevent our residents from having to leave Ossining in order to seek entertainment elsewhere. We urge you to reconsider approving the cabaret application as submitted. The significance of limiting a business's ability to generate revenue while suffering through 2 years of an economically devastating pandemic with no end in sight should not be taken lightly. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? I'm seeing another hand. I don't know if that's Mr. Gary's hand or another hand. Jamie, idea? Victoria Garrity? Okay. I'm assuming you're bringing her over. There she is.
I asked the village board to consider amending Resolution J and provide Sing Sing Brewery with the hours they requested for their cabaret license. These are the same hours the village has been granted since the brewery opened 3.5 years ago. Back in 2013, I was a co-founder of the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series. That series was founded during the same year I took office as village trustee. In my role as trustee, I heard a lot of complaints about the need for more nightlife. People lamented the loss of Danny's Cafe, and they wanted more places to go to in Ossining, more reasons for people to come to our down, more reasons for young people to live here and stay here. So the documentary discussion series, we picked Thursdays for our programming because it was a night when people might go out, but probably not out for dinner and drinks. And thanks to the dedication of the wonderful volunteers of that series with the partnership of the Ossining Library, our regular attendance grew in our series. And lo and behold, over the 7+ years of that Thursday evening programming, our successful little documentary series started having some serious competition. We had regular attendees telling us they weren't coming to a screening because there were other great things happening in Ossining. It got to the point where we were considering how to adapt to Ossining's burgeoning, how to adapt the series to Ossining's burgeoning local economy that really hadn't existed in that way when we started our series. And then COVID hit and threw everything into a tailspin. Why would a village government do anything that might undermine a local business's ability to recover from the economic devastation of the pandemic? Especially a local business that has not presented a public safety concern and has not undermined the quality of life in our village. In fact, they have enhanced the quality of life for our community. No one on this board owns a business in downtown Ossining. When you make decisions that impact local businesses, it is essential that you listen to your local business owners and consider their concerns. So I ask you to please honor Sing Sing Hill Brewery's request to keep the same hours for their cabaret license as they have responsibly maintained since they opened in 2018.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So I am wondering, first of all, thank you for the comments. This is a listening moment. I would say that in principle, I received a letter from Eric Garrity. I saw it on, I guess, Tuesday, which would be yesterday. Most of the trustees and I have spoken. I wrote a letter back Tara Garrity earlier today. I think in principle there is agreement because it was insightful. No one showed up for our work session when the licenses, not just Sing Sing Hill, people did not show up except for one representation from a bar. We're going to discuss this more, but my question is, I would assume that the Garrity's want to wait, except it might be a bit of a wait till we get to J. Is there any ability to move this up so we can have the discussion now and vote on it rather than make them sit here and wait the whole time?
You control the agenda, Mayor, whatever you.
I know, it's a rhetorical question, but I didn't know if any trustee objected to it. So, you know, my opinion about looking at the gallery, making sure everybody's okay. So I think instead of making them wait, I'm looking at the agenda on my other screen. And because they're the only two that are here, so I don't think it will harm anybody that's on here. Why don't we move this up, have the conversation, get some insight, and then we can move on with the agenda and they don't have to stay for the whole agenda. Does that sound fair? Nodding the heads. Okay. All right. So let me start with some points of clarity. There were a number of requests because it's the beginning of the year. For those that follow the agenda, we don't often do this, but we're actually declining some of the requests in total. Again, this is not a declination of people's business hours and how they run their businesses and when they serve liquor or food or whatever they're licensed to do. Because that's on actually through the state of New York, not local. Ours is about cabaret. It's strictly about music. And we do not pass resolutions or policies for an audience of one. We do it to codify across the board. And that is the principle that we use. We also, as a board, believe that many of the places the bars or entertainment venues request till 2 or 3 in the morning, etc. And we actually believe that we need to lower those hours, that we have gotten tremendous number of complaints, and this is not about Sing Sing Hill Brewery. In general, we have gotten complaints about a number of bars. It's not like we have hundreds of them. It's a village. It's not a city. For the ones that we have that are really disconcerting and concerning to us as representatives of the public. This is not specific to any one business. We have decided to lower from the 2 a.m. number that we've been using for a number of years to 1 a.m. across the board for everybody. So this is not a single business issue. It's across the entire community based on feedback from community. And we have also realigned what we think was actually possibly an oversight that 2 trustees brought to everyone's attention, which is that we were doing very late nights on Sunday, when in fact Sunday is not really a weekend anymore. Sunday night is actually a work night because Monday is a work day. And so we made some adjustments that we believe are right across the board. There is no one group that's getting something more than the others. And this is about music and the noise and the events. It is not about keeping the hours. So that's just sort of an overall comment. Some of the board members had looked at Eric Garrity's letter and do what we always do, which is we appreciate thoughtful input. And we care about being equitable to people. You know, we are very interested and everything that Mr. Garrity said is true. Nobody should be punished for anything here, and that is not the goal. Having said that, there is, I think, something on the table that I do want the board to consider. We're going to go through the resolutions, and it's actually done one by one by one. So if anybody from the public sees this in video, we don't vote on everyone at once. We take every single applicant and we go to those applicants. And in fact, Stuart, what I want to do is do all of the applicants together. I don't want to do one and then go through the rest of the agenda and do the rest of them. That seems a little strange to me. So let's go through this topic in unison. And so the request being made is to go for 2 a.m. It is also, and I went back on the website, Sing Sing Hill Brewery operating hours actually don't extend to as late as the request being made. And actually Stuart Kahan had called Eric Garrity and actually had said that while we've done in the past, there was actually not too much of a reason. Let's add all of this up. There's a couple of ideas on the table that I think some of the trustees might have. One of the ideas, and I want to present this to the trustees before we vote, because we can amend as we vote if we so choose, is that we keep it as is and have a discussion about how we might make some accommodation for those. And I think the letter said a few times during the year where there's some celebratory occasions, events that may require, I mean, 1 a.m. is pretty late. I got to tell you, 2 a.m. is later, but 1 a.m. is pretty late. Trustee Fritchie said more than once, nothing good happens after midnight when people are drinking. And that's an opinion. So, you know, and many of us agree with that. So I want to sort of put a holistic point of view here. One suggestion on the table for the trustees to consider, and they can amend this as we do it, is that we can actually not modify the resolution, but put in an exception that on times when there's events, there's probably, I don't know, 4 of them a year, 5 of them, the next 4 years, I think, the next 5 years, New Year's never comes on a weekend. So, you know, they will end up being, for example, that's a big event night that will be during a weekday. My suggestion is that we allow the village manager, if we're legally allowed to use it as an event. And in this case, in this particular one, if Sing Sing Hill Brewery or really any of the others want an exception because they're running some big events. I didn't see any on the calendar when I looked on the website, but I'm sure there will be during the year. All they have to do is ask that it be extended to 2 a.m. as a default. And it's a pretty easy to do. It's a simple email. If there's issues, the village manager will contact the mayor or the board and say, look, we have a request. I'm not comfortable. You guys need to decide, or I am comfortable. She'll let the chief of police know, because when we have events, and this is where we need to monitor some of what goes on. And this is, again, not specific to any one bar, because we're not going to make policy and laws to an audience of one. It's an idea. Others might have other ideas, but that's the one that folks had gone back to me with. I think Trustee Lopez had something a little different. I sort of took yours, Trustee Lopez. I didn't get a chance to speak to you, but I did get a chance to speak to other trustees to see if anybody, can make some accommodation, can do the right thing based on the input that we received. So I'm opening it up for a discussion, because we do have an opportunity as the board. It doesn't always have to be a yay or nay. It could actually be a vote with some accommodation. What are your thoughts, board?
Thanks, Mayor. I can start. So I'll start by responding to the idea that you just gave with some quick thoughts before I forget them, and then I'll go into the way that I'm thinking about it. So I think the hesitation that I have with the idea that you presented is that one of the conversations that has happened in the past is around favoritism and who's deciding what and whatever. And whenever we're putting it at the discretion of one person, be it the village manager or anyone else, then by nature it is subjective. Is this event large enough to qualify? Have you already had 5? The board wanted 4 or 5. It just seems to me like it injects a level of subjectivity that is unhelpful, particularly when we're talking about like, what is the issue at hand? And now this gets to the way that I'm thinking about this holistically. The issue at hand is that we have had complaints from our residents for quite a while now. The ones that in particular that live near these businesses, and we don't have just business district, it's all mixed together. And so particularly that the folks that live right near these businesses are directly affected. And the complaints have been really focused on the fact that there's noise complaints, the police are called, there's fights, there's broken glass, there's vomit, there's all kinds of stuff that comes from folks going a little bit too wild at these various businesses. And so as these cabaret licenses come up, we have a decision to make in terms of whether we want to accept the hours that they're requesting or not, or make some amendments to them. And this is the one lever, and this is exactly what you said, Mayor, that we have to try to manage the situation, apart, of course, from going to these businesses and talking to them, which we also have done for a while, not just once, but more than once, many, many times. And so now this is the point where there's going to be legislative repercussions to actions. And although we haven't had an explicit conversation as a board, kind of the place where we landed was, as a standard, 1 a.m. seems like a reasonable standard time for a business to have a cabaret license on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and then midnight for other nights, so that folks are able to get to work and do their thing. And that's the balance between keeping the business open and having a community that works, particularly for the residents that live right near those businesses. At the same time, we recognize that there are businesses that have a history of having their clients have the police called because of various issues. And so we said, hey, although the default, the standard, maybe Friday, Saturday night, 1 a.m., and then midnight for the other nights, for these businesses that have repeat issues with the police, let's say no, just across the board, no. The cabaret license is a no. And I'm on board with all of that. I think at the same time, if we're saying here's the default, and if you're a business that is unable to manage your clients, there are repercussions. In turn, it seems to me like there's a whole other side of the equation where the default is 1, but if you're a business that has demonstrated an ability to manage responsibly noise complaints and fights and all the other things that come with staying open late, then you should, and you request a later time, then we should also take that into consideration and be open to having that time be honored. Because by doing that, we're not solving the problem of addressing the community issues. And we're, in fact, motivating businesses to say, hey, if you're able to manage your situation, then you can have not just the 1 a.m., but even later than that. To me, it's all consistent with what we've been talking about doing, and doesn't pick and choose. It doesn't say it's 1 a.m. for everyone except this one business. It says, here are the guidelines for everyone across the board. And if you're a business right now, even that we're deciding not to move forward with the Cabaret license, and you're able to demonstrate that you don't have police activity and that your clients are able to be served responsibly and all that kind of stuff, we'll take a look at the data, not subjectively what we think about a particular kind of business. Do we frequent it? Do we not? Whatever. I want to take as much subjectivity out, just objectively. How many police calls have you gotten? And if the number is low and getting lower, then we'd be open for you to go from essentially probation, from having no cabaret hours, to then the standard 1 a.m. And then if you continue that solid behavior of having low police calls, then maybe we even extend it beyond that. To me, that's consistent with solving a problem. It's as objective as possible, and it tries to get to this balance of respecting and honoring the businesses that are in our community with respecting and honoring the residents that are trying to get up in the morning.
I could go. First of all, anything that was denied, I don't think there's a probation. It's denied, and they have the right to reapply if they do better. Correct, Stuart?
Yes, Trustee Fritchie.
Okay, so the original hours for Sing Sing Kill, I think 2:30 was the latest. Or
Sing
2?
Sing Kill was noon till 2 a.m.
Okay, so I agree what the mayor laid out as far as if they have events or those holidays that he's spelled out in his email. Again, this is an establishment that I believe had no problems. Correct, Chief?
I can't say that anybody has no problems. We didn't have a lot of documented stuff,
Right.
There wasn't anything to report on this case. I can't say anybody had no problems.
So I stand corrected there. But being said that, I'm in favor of giving them on events, let them stay to their 2 o'clock, I don't believe it has to be every day or whatever it was that they originally had. I think the 1 a.m. is a nice compromise, and for these events that I understand what Mr. Garrity's saying wholeheartedly. I'm in favor of, going through with that end of it, however we structure it.
You're muted, Rico.
Yeah, I want to be clear that what I stated was that once getting the letter, I think, and I called around, in principle, people agree. The question is how to enforce it and how to codify it and be equitable across everybody. I'm going to let the other trustees speak because I do want to say that this idea that when the village manager has a say as a singular person, subjective, I think diminishes, unless I misunderstood it, diminishes the experience that I've had over the many years, because we either trust village managers, it doesn't matter which one it is, that they are behaving objectively and that they seek the advice of the people that they report into, which is 5 trustees, or they're not. I don't have any reason to believe that they're anything but objective, just our lawyer is objective. And I just want to be very clear about that, because the village manager makes lots of decisions about lots of things every single day, with the understanding that they are actually not subjective. Otherwise, we'd have a real problem. They're supposed to be apolitical. They're supposed to stay at arm's length from many other scenarios. So I just, because these meetings go on public record, I just want to make sure that there's an understanding in the way our charter is written and in the village about the role of village management and village manager, and also the chain of command and how that works. Manny, I don't know if you were raising your hand, or I can't tell in the gallery. Do you have something to say?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor, thank you. Trustee Lopez, I totally, I agree with what you said. I think what we have to do is we have to be fair and we have to be equal. We have to, we always talked about how to, whenever we do a law, we try to make a standard that's the standard for all and anybody. And I totally, I agree with that statement. I think one of the things that I think I'm favoring what the mayor has suggested in regards to these special event situations. And one of the things that we always talked about, and this board has done it, and we have done it in the past, is a streamlined process, from events to give them, to allow, or the boards to do stuff that we, that we are literally, we set up the standards and that's the standards that they have to follow. So I think one of the solutions, I think this is a very clever and smart solution where, any business that has obtained a cabaret license, that this board has allowed them to have a cabaret license, and they do have a special events. There should be a simple, like as the mayor stated, a simple email request to the village manager. We can always be copied on that email. That doesn't mean that we should not be involved if there's any questions. And that should be pretty much it. Any coordination, anything else that needs to be done, I think that should be a simple thing. If it's just a few days, or if it's different days that they know ahead that is going to happen. With I think we have done something like this for the events with 2 weeks notice. Sometimes I believe maybe a week notice. But I think to me that's a simple solution, and it brings it allows businesses, again, it allows businesses that have gone through the process in front of the board, and those businesses have obtained the cabaret license. So that kind of combines to what Omar Lopez was talking about, how the balance and the alignment of what we are looking to do with being fair and what other businesses may want to do through the year as well. So I'll be in favor of, putting as a guideline or something to add into administrative portion of this for maybe not for a special, I don't know. Would it be in a special event line that we may need to add, or just be more administrative from the village manager? I guess that'd be my question for Stuart.
Stuart, what's the easiest way? For me, it's an email, but what's the easiest way to amend the words to make this possible? Because if we do it for one, it's going to end up being for others as well. And I'm not doing it for all of them. We're doing it for this request because it's a separate vote. But what is the easiest way to do this?
Let me just say this. I've been thinking of how the language should be. I can't do this one on the fly. I truly apologize. It's simply impossible, because currently there is a provision in the code for what we call a day cabaret license, which is something that is granted by the village manager. It can be granted for any applicant 3 times a year. They can basically do that. And there would be a way of perhaps working. Now, there could be a condition put into this particular resolution that there would be certain days, be it I have like Labor Day, day before Memorial Day, perhaps Independence Day, New Year's Eve, whatever. But I have to think about the language, because it's, this is not one I can do on the fly. I apologize. I just have to.
I thought it was a simple amendment. So I'm sorry. I also want to be clear. While I called the trustees, I only saw this on yesterday morning. It was sent close to midnight on Monday. So at least that's what it said. So, it's not enough time to call 4 other people and the village manager and Kevin Sylvester and everybody else. It's, before today. So I think that's also why Stuart Kahan is hearing this really for the first time, because some of us just said, okay, let's think about it. Let's figure this out. It's the first time the village manager is hearing about it as well. So let me go to Dana, because Dana, I didn't ask you. I don't know if you have any commentary on this. And I do want to ask before Dana speaks, do we need to vote on this tonight, or can we table it and vote on it when you can come up with some language?
You are welcome to table it. I do wish to point one thing out to the board.
Yeah,
Currently, there is no active cabaret license for Sing Sing Kill Brewery.
Well, they need a license tonight.
So there is no license right now. This is their
Okay.
2022 license. My thought would be
Please.
you could adopt this resolution if you wanted to, and then at the next legislative session, which would be in February, you could, if you thought it appropriate, have revised language to revise what's granted here, and we have to have it discussed. But at least this would grant them the resolution tonight, the approval potentially tonight,
Okay.
so they could at least start.
All right.
Because I don't think that any of the dates that Mr. Garrity has mentioned are coming within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Can you bring him back, Jamie, please? Because I mean, he's on, but the way the webinar works, we can't really have a conversation.
Would you like me to
Is he
Mr.
still on?
Garrity? He's still on.
Okay.
Eric, I'm going to bring you over. I'm hoping that.
Mayor,
will give you a minute.
While you're bringing over Mr. Garrity, I'd just like to clarify one point.
Oh, you're on mute. You just went on mute.
I don't know how that happened,
That's
but
okay.
the idea of one single decision making is a reasonable thing, because you don't ever, you know, the way that things are written, it depends on who's in that position. We went to great lengths to make a somewhat arbitrary event policy a very equitable event policy. And I would support the idea of doing a special cabaret permits, or whatever you want to call them, for holidays or special events or private events. But it would be with the same level of consideration and maybe certain parameters that would make it more objective. There are no decisions when it comes to these things that are made by arbitrarily by this manager. Things are considered based on objective reasons and involve the decision of other experts. But I would recommend that we maintain that, because this does fall into a similar type of event category, and we could adopt similar parameters around these events as well.
Karen, I'm going to be honest with you. Didn't quite understand what you're saying.
I
just
want to alleviate any concern that it would be an arbitrary decision.
I already made that point. I think that point's been made. If we believe that about the village manager, then we need to change the way we govern. That's not the intention. So I think Stuart's request is the right one, because it'll give it, I mean, he's hearing this for the first time literally now, and I've explained why. So there's no need to rush here. The only thing that's time is of the essence. My suggestion is to pass this so that if they have an event, they can have an event, because right now they're without a license. In 2 weeks, we meet every other week on this. And if for some reason somebody wants to celebrate their 45th birthday and they need music till 1:45, and I don't want to make 2 a.m. The default for me personally, that's not where I'm going to head. We are actually going in the other direction. But understanding that there are events, if between now and when we vote, we can bring 3 trustees together and vote if it was absolutely necessary, and Eric already calls you. So having heard that, he is on, but I don't see him. Okay.
Mayor, before you go, and I guess just as a point of clarification, Stuart, if we pass the resolution the way it is right now, do we have to amend the application? Because the reason why I'm saying that is because I think, at least my opinion will be, to establish a standard. This will be the standard for any other business that has already a cabaret license. So every time that other businesses get the cabaret license, we have to revise the resolution to reflect the changes that we are saying that they can extend, or they can add an additional hour on the special events, or can that be totally separate? Can we just amend portion of the event policy that we already have into this? And it will be a total.
it's not going to be the event policy, because the event policy deals with separate issues. So it's not an event. There's a couple of ways it could be looked at. One is it could be as simple as part of any condition to a cabaret license, there can be standard language that, there could be an extension, on certain dates upon request to the village manager. That could be one thing. We could clarify the code to specifically allow an extension. I think an extension based upon essentially a sort of sliding scale, I think is problematic, but I do think an extension which would be considered, based on a particular day, if it's New Year's Eve comes on a Wednesday night, and instead of having to be midnight because it's during the week, do you extend it to 1 or potentially 2 a.m.? There could be something that could be written in as sort of generic language to go with all approved resolutions. It need not obviously just be this one, but again, it's something I just have to sort of think through.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for
Before we have Mr. Garrity speak, I just want to make 2 quick points. One is because both the mayor and the village manager have responded to one point that I made around subjectivity versus objectivity. And I want to clarify what I mean here. So no one has more faith in Karen than me as a human, nobody. And also, as Karen said, she will not be the last village manager. At some point in the future, there will be another. So we're creating guidelines and in some ways policies, maybe this is not a policy, but just a guideline that extends beyond the person in the seat right now. The point I was trying to make was, as we're thinking about crafting this thing, the more that it could be based off of objective data points. In this case, how many police calls did your business get is stronger than when a person decides, if nothing else, then because someone can lobby the accusation, well, you just don't like my business, and that's why you decided to deny my cabaret license, as opposed to how many police calls did you get? That's why we denied your cabaret license. And if you want to fix it, get fewer police calls, and we'll act. You know what I'm saying? So it's more trying to, but that's just a point of clarification. 2 is, and as the former mayor said, none of us have businesses downtown Austin, New York, around. So I want to put that out there. That is true. And if I were to imagine being a business owner in Ossining, I just don't quite see, like, in the past, what we've done is when we have special events that go late, let's say we want to have an open night or open mic or whatever, and it goes late, and we do our thing. No one has a problem with it. We get no complaints, whatever. But other businesses do get complaints frequently. And so why would I need to go through now this extra layer of bureaucracy of contacting the village manager to letting them know having an open mic night or a 40th birthday party or whatever? Essentially, like, this extra level of resistance and being able to do a thing. It's a check and a balance to solve a problem that has nothing to do with me as a business owner. It has to do with other businesses that are not doing the right thing. So to me, it just makes it harder for businesses that are doing the right thing to do their thing, and doesn't do anything to address the businesses that are not doing the right thing, which is what we're trying to solve for in the first place. To me, if that's not a problem, then let's, and it sounds like, just kind of looking at the room here, we have 3 folks that are kind of in agreement of, let's do this special events clause and move in that direction. Okay, all good. I personally feel like that doesn't solve the problem, because businesses that don't get police calls aren't the problem. And most businesses that do have cabaret licenses that are the problem don't have special events. They have weekly events. It's every week, for the most part, a special DJ here, a band there, this and that, or whatever. And maybe they'll do like some of the churches do and give like this huge list of all the events during the year at the beginning of the year. Maybe they do something like that. More likely than not, what's going to happen is maybe they submit that or don't, and then they're going to do what they do. And then we're kind of figuring out, like, okay, what do we do with these businesses that continue to have DJs and what, maybe, okay, then the police go and you don't have a cabaret. Did you contact the village manager? Show me the email. Maybe that's how it goes down. It just seems a little bit messy to me, both as a business owner and as a person just trying to solve the initial problem. And that's just where I stand.
I could go. What we're granting, we're granting what we decided last week for the people that are granted cabaret license. And this policy or whatever, how we're gonna language it is gonna be for all of them. And again, they had the opportunity to come in front of us last week, which one did, and just happened to be, got denied. All right, now, you know, we have another business owner in front of us tonight, shedding some light on stuff. And I happen to, whether it's how many calls they get or not, that's how we make our decision on the cabaret license. You know, the ones that got granted cabaret license, they weren't an issue. So I don't believe the call theory even comes into play here. So, you know, again, they're in front of us tonight. I believe, you know, it's a little bit more discussion, and I believe, as Stuart said, if there is something that comes up and they need it within the next 2 weeks, they could, it's a simple email and the village manager can grant it or not grant it. And I think it's the right way to go. But everybody that's getting granted their cabaret license has the opportunity to reach out to us and say, hey, I'm having this on a certain date. I'd like to stay open to 2 o'clock, you know, and so be it. So, but as far as police calls and stuff, the people that are getting the licenses weren't the issue. The ones that didn't get their licenses were the ones with the issue. They have to come back and reapply all together. And then it goes from there. Then we can have that discussion. So that's all. I'm done.
Okay. I want to put a little perspective. The conversation, which lasted about 45 minutes last week, is a belief that the board had that 2 a.m. is too late to be open with music in mixed. We live in a densely populated village where many of these businesses are in the middle of now, didn't used to be this way, now increasing residential areas. And there will be even more than that based on everything I'm looking at. And that there have been complaints. It is not just police calls. That's simply one data point. And in fact, I don't love the idea of like putting a metric around police calls, because then the bars and people who work in them will stop calling the police if that's a metric. It is exactly an unintended consequence in my mind. It is simply a matter of whether you believe as a board that the community is better served by having music, not talking about operating hours. That's, again, not what we're deciding. Having music and events and all that, that it's reasonable to shut those off at 1 a.m. for the community, or whether 2 a.m. is the right, because that's all this boils down to. I don't believe this is a big bureaucratic thing like a big event, because it's a simple email that says, hey, I want to be open for this and this hour. And those events have to occur. So the people that do it every week are going to start getting denied, because now they're not actually events. And you have to sort of, that's the role of the board. Otherwise, we can have robots doing these jobs, you know? So the metrics don't actually work for me. It's fundamentally, do you believe that the default should be 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.? Because once you decide on that, the rest flows from there. And there are businesses that have no issues, and we have no intention of hurting their business. I don't know how many times in 21, Mr. Garrity had music past 1 a.m. I've been to many events before COVID, and rarely does the music go on past 1 a.m. People drink past 1 a.m., you know, and hang out. So I don't want to make this a mountain out of a molehill. I want to do this, and fundamentally, the board at least in the majority, believes that 2 a.m. is too late in the evening for music in the middle of residential areas. And yet we have to support the businesses that come here and more of the businesses that we hope will come here over the next few years. And this is one of those pieces, by the way, just as a reminder, that every year we have to vote on. This is not a legislation for the next decade. It actually is one of those things that we vote on every year when it comes in front of us, so that as demographics change, as environments change, as everything changes, there's actually opportunities to adjust. But as a matter of course, and this is, by the way, been discussed in the past, is what feels like the right hours when music stops, whether it's jukeboxes or live music, et cetera, in these businesses that are sitting in the middle of residential areas. So it's not just police calls, it's also people that call and complain about music. And what's the right thing to balance everybody's needs? Having said that, Mr. Garrity, if we did 1 a.m. and if you wrote an email and said, I expect, I don't think you have anything booked now, but you might expect that you need next month, somebody called you with an email that says, I'm going to be open until 2 a.m. Please say it's okay. Letting you know, do you see this as a big problem? Does that help you out? Is it a hindrance? What is, now that you've heard some of the commentary?
Yeah, I mean, it's extra work on our part. And then, you know, it takes some flexibility out of our just, you know, being like, what is the time frame? Like, when does this email, it took 6 weeks for the police department to sign off on the Cabaret license after all the other signatures were on the document. So like, what time frame are we looking at here?
My thought was, and Stuart's going to look into this, a week's notice. I'm sure that most events that you book, a week would be plenty of time, because I'm sure it's usually done more than a week in advance. But I would say an email a week. Stuart's going to look into the ability to do that. And how many do you have? Your letter said a handful, maybe, right? You have a few, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we keep bringing up the 1 a.m., but you know, most of the days, 5 of the 7 say midnight, and you know, midnight is a little early on the 4th of July, or you know, Halloween or New Year's Eve. So,
right.
You know.
So the good news from your letter, and for me personally, I went and looked up all of the New Year's and some of the other holidays, by the way, to see when they do fall in. So this actually gives an opportunity, if you need those nights, to simply write a note and copy us. It's not a big form they have to fill out. It's an email that says, yeah, I'm having a party on blah, blah, blah. It's midnight. I want to do it till 1 in the morning. And do you often have music after 1 in the morning?
Rarely.
Right. And so, exactly. So how does this sit with you? So it would be for midnight too. I say 1 a.m., but it's also for the evenings that are midnight. If, you know, a Memorial Day, a whatever falls.
Yeah, I mean, it just adds an extra, you know, process onto this, which, you know, depending on, you know, we might, for instance, say we don't have something booked for a holiday, and then suddenly someone makes a request and we'd like to, you know, within a couple days, you know, switch over and, you know, fill in that time frame. Like, you know, are we not able to? Like, is the default, unless, you know, unless it's disallowed just by sending a, you know, an email, then, you know, we're okay to give everybody a heads up, and then we'll hear back if it's, you know, needs more of a conversation.
Okay, so what we have to make sure, look, as a board, in the majority, we agreed that it's 1 a.m. at midnight. I haven't put Dana on yet. I'll do that next. So the goal here is to make it super easy, an email with the understanding that there really shouldn't be a reason why you would be denied, and that you need really quick response time. I mean, I'm recapping what you're saying so that we have a win. Because the goal here as a board is 1 a.m. at midnight during the week. And because your place actually, really, we don't get complaints and stuff, but we're making policy and rules and for everybody. In that sense, as Trustee Lopez said, and everybody else said, we're not here to punish, but we also do believe that those hours for music are too late. And there have been board members before us who have believed that. They just haven't sort of taken the action, and we are. So if it's an email, the issue for you is I need a really quick response, because if somebody calls me for next Thursday for a 40th birthday, I want to know that I can say yes. So it's an email and a copy to the mayor or the board with a promise of a quick response. Sounds like it might resolve, and if it doesn't, we're going to need to hear about it so we can make adjustments. And that would go actually for others as well. What other problems do you see with it? So that we clear the air now, so that we don't come back in a week or two and find out we should have known another problem as well. Let's bring it all to the forefront now. Speed, ease of doing this is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and then, again, not that it happens very often, but, what if something goes later than intended? What if something, there's an issue and something had to be delayed? Someone, paid for a karaoke party and we had equipment failures. The internet went back down, which, there's been glitches, and now we get it up and running, and they want to go past, the midnight hour, even though it's, low key and contained. Again, we're kind of, hamstrung there.
Yeah, but that's not quite the same thing. The hours are the hours. It's the same thing. If somebody throws a party in their house and they have to shut it down at 10 p.m. The fact that their DJ didn't arrive to their backyard or their system broke down doesn't change that reality. That one I'm going to have to think about, and not myself, but others. But that's a different scenario. The scenario that you have to run a business, that you should be able to say to people, hey, I'm interested in doing 40th birthday, and I'm sorry, I'm just using 40th, just as it's an easy one. In addition to New Year's Eve, and you want to sign people up and you want to have that booked up, you want to have many of those, not a few, I would think. We have to make it easy. We have to have a quick reply. And I think that's all solvable. The concept that 1 a.m. and midnight are the hours that this board would like to move on for the village based on the complaints we get from people who live here and people who work here, and more people working from home. Seems logical to us. If there's anything that we've left off, just let me know or let the board know, and we will try to take care of that. Stuart's going to do some homework, I think, for now. So if you think of something after we get off, just write me an email that we may have forgotten. We just have to commit to a very quick turnaround for you so that you can book your place for events. Okay. Does that cover it?
I wanted to say just that
excuse me.
Now with COVID and businesses struggling, I'm not in love with the idea of placing limitations on businesses that play by the rules. And last week I maybe hadn't thought about it as much, or it suddenly happened. I mean, I had thought about it, but you think about it a little bit more, and it does bother me. I want these guys to get their cabaret license tonight, but I also want us to, go with, I mean, it is another hoop to jump through, and businesses already have so much red tape, and I just worry it's just going to be another hoop, it's another hoop. And it has to be expedient, and I really don't want, I just really balk at getting in the way of anybody making money this, in a way that follows the rules and is completely acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, but I would like to see how it goes this year, and I would like us to revisit it. And, I think with the pandemic, it's put a damper on events anyway, but that's not stopping everybody, right?
Well, not true. I mean, definitely has stopped people. I mean, New
Yeah.
Year's was really bad. I mean, everybody,
But there are things going, there are people going to bars and partying, having fun, great.
right,
But there's not gonna be, I don't know if there are going to be as many events scheduled that would require this waiver. That's what I'm saying, but
right.
that could change. And if, what would be wonderful would be that the pandemic comes to some kind of end so that we can, and that things really pick back up again, and that the businesses that aren't following the rules, they're not getting a cabaret license at all.
Right.
And the ones that are getting, which is 2 that are getting cabaret licenses, are getting a cutback in their hours. So that's what's happening, because we made the decision that 1 o'clock was okay and that midnight during the week was okay, because we made that decision. So, I would like to see if it works, and I really think we have to do everything we can to make sure it works. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody, I don't want Sing Sing Kill Brewery, I don't want Karma, I don't want the Boathouse, I don't want Three Westerly, I don't want anybody to lose business because of this. And if that does start happening and we can quantify that and somebody could show us that it is hurting them, then maybe we can look at it again.
I think those are all fair points, and that's the reason we're having an elongated conversation. The other point is, first of all, that frankly, some of the boathouse isn't even open right now in the winter. I mean, we have to look at the reality. The boards always make these decisions. All boards make these decisions. We make decisions about the hours of the cabaret. That's what we do at the beginning of the year. It's always been done by boards, and some boards believe it should be till 3 in the morning, and some boards believe it should be till midnight. It's the prerogative of the board. We don't act as much about it because imagine oscillating every year, every time there's a new mayor or a new board. But this has been long festering. And as the population has increased of the residences in our downtown, it's good for business to have more and more people living here. It's also, and more people work here and more people work from home who can go out. It also creates problem for exactly the same reason. This isn't like a punishment or not a punishment. 1 a.m. for music. Again, it is past, if you look at the hours of most of these places, only a handful of bars that are open past that. This is still well past the hours that most of the places are open. The question is about a handful of events that may or may not occur. It doesn't hinder anybody's business right now because right now there isn't that much going on. And if there were, we're trying to solve for it. It goes back to what do you think is a reasonable time for a village of our size and density to have places open based on all the feedback we get, both from the police, but also from residents. It has to be very quick. And I think everybody here understands. And Stuart, I think it's going to sit with you. To have a cabaret license, we have to pass it tonight. And that's what it really boils down to. I'm just uncomfortable with this, like making things harder. It's an email to go with 2 names on it to say, I want this open New Year's, Memorial Day. I'd like it to be open to this. Please confirm because I expect to have events. We will probably get others who say it, and we'll look at that as well. We do this every year. We look at the cabaret. It actually is one of the legislations that is one of the most flexible. Most of the other things we think about it's going to be around for a few years. I think we're going to vote unless anybody else has any more. I'm going to propose that in order, I think we'll do Sing Sing Kill first, then we'll go to the rest, is that we stay with what we have Stuart by, in 2 weeks, I guess you would have to have it back to us, Stuart, have a reasonable, easy way for the handful of days that the brewery needs, and other businesses, I'm sure, will as well, that they need for late hours, to let us know what it is so that we can quickly turn that around and so that they can book business for those days.
If I could just add one super quick thing is taking everything that we've said tonight into account. What I would love is, as we look forward to the rest of the year and things that we can do from a legislative perspective, from a guidelines perspective, to take businesses into account. What I would want is, when a new business is coming in and they're saying, where do I want to start my business? I have a few different communities that I can choose from, and they're communities like Ossining, and they look at what is the most business friendly community, one where I can do my work in a way that's going to be easy and lucrative and be able to serve the community and all the rest. That this one piece, it's one relatively small piece, but it's as part of a much larger system of what it means to own and manage a business in this village. And so what I would love is for us to take a look, and I will take this on myself in terms of whatever I can do to propose ideas, but things that make it easier for businesses to do their thing. And it could be things like what we're talking about now, but in the reverse. Like, hey, right now we have this policy, you got to do this thing, got to send this email, we're talking about the red tape. What red tape can we remove to make it easier for businesses to do their thing? That's kind of the ickiness but where it feels like I get that it's just an email, but there are between, there's like a million things, and this is like 1,000,001. It just feels personally like a lot, as like a holistic thing. So I totally hear what everybody's saying on this issue. I just want to relieve the pressure on another end somewhere else in the future, and that's where I stand. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I mean, we talked about 3 or 4 years ago that we have to look at streamlining. We talked about events, we talked about businesses, we talk about it as we went through the DRI and are looking to say, where can we make sure that businesses, and what kind of businesses, because the character of businesses have changed in the suburbs. I could tell you, and you know this, that I work, and I've spent quite a bit of time in White Plains and New Rochelle. It is much more difficult to start businesses and more expensive in relation to other places. As you stated, Omar, is it really so important when people look at all the other places, or is it just as important to say, hey, that, and by the way, to encourage more businesses, and what do we do today that we can streamline, get rid of, eliminate? It's long overdue to do that. The Cabaret piece is one sliver, one fraction of the bigger picture of how do you make this a more business friendly? How do you improve and streamline things? And so what I'm hearing you say, this just is a symptom, maybe. I'm not sure that we're more difficult than other communities, since I work in other communities and have had to be on the other side and see what it takes to open businesses and to close them, by the way. I wouldn't say we're more difficult. Actually, on the contrary. But again, we need data points about it. Just my opinion, your opinion, everybody's opinion, it doesn't help us in the conversation. What helps us in the conversation is what is difficult now and how do we get the hurdles out of the road so people have an easier path to travel on. For tonight, I think we have to pass these pieces so that people have licenses and can move forward, as I understand it. And Stuart will do his best to get us something within a week and a half or so that we can look at it and make sure that in fact we accomplish something that's simple and quick to get done.
Are we voting on one of these?
We're going to vote one by one because that's how we do it. We'll start with
Well,
the, whatever is the first one, Stuart, we'll go through them. We'll get this, so we're not keeping the Garrity's here the whole night over the rest of the agenda. And then we can do the rest of the agenda in the order that we have it. Okay,
So Martha, why don't you start with the resolution J, which is the Sing Sing Kill resolution?
Okay, so should I do all of the Cabaret resolutions first and then go over to the minutes and following through?
yes,
Start with Sing Sing, and then we'll go back to the remaining Cabaret ones, beginning with F.
Just give me 1 second.
yeah.
Okay, resolution approving 2022 Cabaret license for Sing Sing Kill Brewery LLC, 75 Spring Street, Austining, New York. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Austining Code, the authorized representative of the business Sing Sing Kill Brewery LLC, 75 Spring Street, Austining, New York, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for a cabaret license for live music, stand-up comedy, karaoke, etc. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the chief of police for a full investigation as to the truth of the statements contained therein and as to any or all other matters which might tend to aid in determining whether or not such application shall be granted. And whereas the village clerk also referred the application to the village building inspector to inspect the premises for the cabaret and to advise if any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code were observed. And whereas an inspection of the premises was performed on November 10th, 2021, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the board of trustees, which board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the board of trustees at the January 12th, 2022 work session discussed and reviewed the application hearing from the chief of police and corporation counsel. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by Sing Sing Kill Brewery LLC, 75 Spring Street, Austining, New York, for a cabaret license for 2022 is approved as follows. Sing Sing Kill Brewery LLC, days, hours, Sunday through Thursday, 12 p.m. until 12 a.m. midnight, Friday and Saturday, 12 p.m. until 1 a.m. Type of entertainment, live music, stand-up comedy, karaoke, etc. And be it further resolved that pursuant to section 100-7, the village clerk shall issue the cabaret license. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Any comments? We just had all the comments, but
I don't
somebody
think we
may
need any
have
more comments.
another thought.
I don't think we need any more comments.
Okay, I had to ask. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So I need to figure out.
Okay,
Okay.
I think the Garrity's is still on. We're going to get this back as soon as we can, per the conversation we just had, to make an accommodation, and we will pursue this further. And thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Okay, going on to resolution F. Resolution denying 2022 cabaret license for Diaz Restaurant Incorporated doing business as Atlantic Bar, 84 Current Avenue, Austining, New York. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Austining Code, the authorized representative of the business Diaz Restaurant Incorporated doing business as Atlantic Bar, 84 Current Avenue, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for a cabaret license for DJs. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the chief of police for a full investigation as to the truth of the statements contained therein and as to any or all other matters which might tend to aid in determining whether or not such application should be granted. And whereas the village clerk also referred the application to the village building inspector to inspect the premises for the cabaret and to advise if any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code are observed. And whereas pursuant to section 100-5 of the code, the police department submitted to the village clerk a water log report from January 1st, 2019 through December 22nd, 2021, along with other reports, including a police referral form dated July 27, 2020 to the New York State Liquor Authority. And whereas an inspection of the premises was performed on December 7th, 2021, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the board of trustees, which the board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the Board of Trustees at the January 12th, 2022 work session discussed and reviewed the application hearing from the Chief of Police and Corporation Counsel. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by Diaz Restaurant Incorporated doing business as Atlantic Bar 85 Current Avenue for a cabaret license for 2022 is denied. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Code Section 171-13, the village clerk shall refund all fees paid in advance for the cabaret license application. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution G, resolution denying 2022 cabaret license for El Manavita Restaurant and Bar, 107 Main Street, Austin, New York. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Austin Code, the authorized representative of the business El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated doing business as El Manavita Restaurant and Bar, 107 Main Street, Austin, New York, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for a cabaret license for live music entertainment. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the chief of police for a full investigation as to the truth of the statements contained therein and as to any or all other matters which might tend to aid in determining whether or not such application shall be granted. And whereas the village clerk has also referred the application to the village building inspector to inspect the premises for the cabaret and to advise of any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code were observed. And whereas pursuant to section 100-5 of the code, the police department submitted to the village clerk a water log report from January 1st, 2019 through January 11th, 2022. And whereas an inspection of the premises was performed on December 16th, 2021, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the Board of Trustees, which board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the Board of Trustees at the January 12th, 2022 work session discussed and reviewed the application here from the Chief of Police, Corporation Counsel, and representatives of the applicant. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by El Manavita Sports Restaurant Incorporated doing business as El Manavita Restaurant and Bar, 107 Main Street, Austin, New York, for a cabaret license for 2022 is denied. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Code Section 171-13, the village clerk shall refund all fees paid in advance for the cabaret license application. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, resolution H, resolution denying 2022 cabaret license for Sirenita Lounge Incorporated, 12 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Austin Code, the authorized representative of the business Sirenita Lounge Incorporated, 12 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for cabaret license for DJ music. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the chief of police for a full investigation as to the truth of the statements contained therein and as to any or all other matters which might tend to aid in determining whether or not such application shall be granted. And whereas the village clerk also referred the application to the village building inspector to inspect the premises for the cabaret and to advise of any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code are observed. And whereas pursuant to section 100-5 of the code, the police department submitted to the village clerk a water log report from January 1st, 2019 through December 22nd, 2021. And whereas an inspection of the premises was performed on December 10th, 2021, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the Board of Trustees, which board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the Board of Trustees at the January 12th, 2022 work session discussed and reviewed the application here from the Chief of Police and Corporation Counsel. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by Sirenita Lounge Incorporated, 12 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, for a cabaret license for 2022 is denied. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Village Code Section 171-13, the village clerk shall refund all fees paid in advance for the cabaret license application. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I need a second.
Sorry, second.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution I. Resolution approving 2022 cabaret license for the Trifecta Cuisine Corporation doing business as Karma Lounge of Westchester, 175 Main Street, Austining, New York. Whereas pursuant to chapters 100, 171 of the Code of the Village of Austining Code, the authorized representative of the business Trifecta Cuisine Corp. Doing business as Karma Lounge of Westchester, 175 Main Street, Austining, New York, presented an application to the village clerk as licensing officer for a cabaret license for pre-recorded or live music and floor shows. And whereas pursuant to section 100-4 of the code, the village clerk referred the application to the chief of police for a full investigation as to the truth of the statements contained therein, and as to any or all matters which might tend to aid in determining whether I'm sorry. Despite the premises for the cabaret, and to advise if any violations of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code and Village Code were observed. And whereas pursuant to section 100-5 of the code, the police department submitted to the village clerk a blotter log report from January 1st, 2019 to December 22nd, 2021. And whereas an inspection of the premises was performed on December 10th, 2021, and that inspection revealed no violations. And whereas pursuant to section 100-6 of the code, the village clerk, I'm so sorry, my computer's moving, my apologies. The village clerk referred the application to the Board of Trustees, which board is responsible for determining whether the cabaret license should be granted or denied. And whereas the Board of Trustees at the January 12th, 2022 work session discussed and reviewed the application here from the Chief of Police and Corporation Counsel. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by Trifecta Cuisine Corp. Doing business as Karma Lounge of Westchester, 175 Main Street, Austining, New York, for a cabaret license for 2022 is approved as follows. Trifecta Cuisine Corp. Doing business as Karma Lounge of Westchester, days and hours, Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. until 12 a.m. midnight, Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. until 1 a.m. Type of entertainment, pre-recorded or live music, floor shows, and be it further resolved that pursuant to section 100-7, the village clerk shall issue the cabaret license. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we're going back to resolution 8, correct, Stuart?
Yes, Martha, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're doing the mayor's appointments after the resolution.
No, we went to public
wait.
comments. We went to that.
Let's do, Mayor, do you want to do your appointments before we get to the remaining resolutions of the
Yeah.
board and trustees? Okay,
Yeah, I want to go back to the order.
that's fine.
Okay.
So Martha, it's Roman numeral 6 now, 2022 mayor's appointments.
Okay, liaisons to board and committees, Sing Sing Prison Museum, we had that one left behind from the last meeting.
I thought that we already did this. I'm sorry.
This was
Okay,
one that we did not fill in last, at the
Okay,
last meeting, Mayor.
so it's trustee Omar Lopez is liaison to Sing Sing Prison Museum. And we thank Dana White for all the years, but I know you're still going to be covering that. That's going to be interesting stuff going on in that world. Thank you, trustee Lopez, for raising your hand. Much appreciated.
Okay, and then, give me 1 second, something. So now is the Board of Trustees and committee appointments, that's part of one of the resolutions, correct, Stuart? So we should just.
That's
Okay,
that's what you have under Roman numeral 8, essentially, right? Well, actually, no, that's
See,
Board
I
of
would,
Trustees, that's resolution E, Martha, effectively.
yes, okay, so we should just go on to the resolutions then now.
Please.
Okay. Okay, so village board resolutions, approval of minutes, December 31st, 2021, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby approves the minutes of the December 31st, 2021 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
oh, the one time I don't do comments. Manny, did you have something with the minutes?
Yeah, no, I was not part of the meeting. That's why.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, you were not. Okay, got it. So let's do that again, Martha. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay, so abstain.
That would be Manny.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then opposed? Okay, that's good. Approval of minutes, January 5th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby approves the minutes of the January 5th, 2022 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right.
Any comments on the minutes? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of minutes, January 12th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby approves the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of voucher detail, January 19th, 2022. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated January 19th, 2022 in the amount of $460,330.53. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments?
No comments, Mayor.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then for Resolution E, I read all of this, correct, Stuart?
Please, Martha, and they'll vote, but the board will vote after each of the interim resolutions for each of the different appointments.
Okay. Resolved, the Board of Trustees appoints the following individuals to the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, 2 years, full term, January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2023. Julie Johnson, landlord, and Steve Dewey, landlord. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
I think we're ready for the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so there's gonna be no comments, okay. Resolve, the Board of Trustees appoints the following individuals to the Environmental Advisory Council, 2 year, full term, January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2023. Catherine Alberti and Sade Takuro.
Sarday Takuro.
So move.
Second.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolve, the Board of Trustees appoints the following individuals to Civilian Police Complaint Review Board, 2 year, full term, January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2023. Jennifer Cabrera, Cassandra Garrett, and Jim Burnett. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in
Martha?
favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Resolved, the Board of Trustees appoints the following individuals to the Austining Arts Project, 2 year, full term, January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2023. Mike Griscoll, Alan Lewin, Bradley Morrison, and Jessica Irons. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Let me just see, give me one
Okay,
second.
before you move on, many of these folks have already served, so this is almost a reappointment. We did many of these before. We're doing them tonight. It's something that we do. We thank all the volunteers and all the volunteer boards. Each is taking time out of their life to better the lives of their neighbors and frankly to help the Board of Trustees with insights, input, their time, their thoughtfulness, sometimes pushback to some of our thoughts, all part of government, all part of a democratic government. So I thank them all for the terms that they are signing up to serve, and in most cases reserve. So it's a real for some of them, which means they're doing more than just this term, but they've already have spent quite a bit of time, and to all the liaisons on the board who work with them. We will be hearing presentations in the first few months of this year from the volunteer boards, and that will also I think be insightful as to where they are and what their thoughts are in each of their councils or boards. So I thank everybody for that. Martha, I think we're ready to move on to F.
Okay. No, to K. We already
Excuse
did.
me. Yes, good catch there. Already went through that one. Where
Okay.
are we?
Resolution K.
Yep.
So after Sing Sing, yeah, all the way down. DPW authorization to re-advertise for bids, contract DPW 21-01, replacement of water mains Westerly Road. Resolved as subject to review by Corporation Council, the village clerk is authorized to re-advertise for bids for contract DPW 21-01, replacement of water mains Westerly Road. Such bids to be returnable to the village clerk. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? And maybe it's just me. Exactly what's happening here? This is something we discussed last week and I'm just not
No,
thinking
Mayor,
about it.
We're rebidding this because we withdrew the earlier bid document. There was some subsequent testing done at the site, that information will be included in the new bid document. So it was deemed appropriate to withdraw and then rebid.
Okay. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Fire Department Independent Host Company removal from active roles. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby removes John Johnson from the active roles of the Austining Fire Department Independent Host Company. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Okay. All those in
Martha?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there any continuing business of the board?
I don't want to speak for Dana White, but she did bring up rethinking the parklets. So I just would like that to be something that I did walk around this weekend. We were thinking maybe April 1st we would open the parklets. Obviously the businesses, again, to the earlier conversations, how do you make things better for businesses? There's a thinking about March 1st, if that's a possibility.
Mayor,
I-
I do have a response for that.
Okay.
Because I did talk to Paul. So it's very easy for us to reenact the same legislation that was we had last year. That's very easy to do. You can enact it exactly as it was last time. The timing, I think March is going to be impossible, and we really need to look at April. The issue with them is snow and plowing. Having the park list is not conducive to plowing. So depending on the winter, and it's hard to predict that in the future, March is probably too early. Again, all of the restaurants can have outdoor seating now. They have no restrictions on space. They can have it on the sidewalk. It just won't be quite as big. However, in this weather, I don't think that's likely an issue. So there's no restaurant, if they want to put outdoor dining and they have the space, all they need is a 4-foot clearance for to be ADA clearance, and they can do that now. Right now, I think only one has outdoor seating throughout the winter. If we want to do, I've talked to Paul, he thinks April's maybe more doable, but again, you know, with a preference towards maybe mid-April, early, you know, May 1st was when we started just because of weather conditions. But March, I think, would be challenging. That said, just to be clear, all of the restaurants as of today, if they wanted outdoor seating now, they're clear to do that. And they can use propane heaters as long as they're approved propane heaters. So there really is no, I think for the amount of demand for outdoor seating on the sidewalk at this time of year, we're probably in good shape.
Okay. I mean, I would love to aim for April 1st. That would be an ideal. I think when I walked around, I asked a couple of the businesses, let's aim for that. I mean, if possible, I think it just helps. And again, I didn't want to put words in your mouth, Dana, but it's under continuing business. I know it was brought up, and thank you, Karen,
No,
for
I'm
following up.
I'm happy to start this. I think April 1st would be great to aim for. May 1 seems late to me.
Mayor, that's going to require either a legislative change, because we really cannot enact, the law now is May 1.
Okay.
So if you're going to change it to April 1, you're either going to have to change the law, or you're going to need to have an emergency local order. But right now, there's really no basis for for an emergency order.
Because it says May 1.
Yep, that's what the
Okay.
statute says.
All right, so let's work on that. I'd love to get them the ability to do that. We don't have a ton of restaurants. We'd like to have more. So let's aim for that. And if we have to do it, we have to do it. It's unfortunate we just can't do an addendum or a text amendment, but I get what you're saying.
So we can, I am going to, you know, again, I've been in discussion with our Director of Public Works on this. So again, the likelihood, even though it snows in April, the likelihood of needing to plow in April is a little bit less. So I will talk to him, but it will be the only factors that are really going to determine that, aside from the legislation, are the feasibility given weather conditions.
Okay, not usually gets snow these days. Those days are long gone. I think when I was a kid, once in a rare while we got it. Usually was north of here. Okay, let's aim.
Snowed last April, 2 years ago. We had a
Of course, as soon as I said that, you're going to tell me that, but that's
we
okay.
do. It does still snow in April, but again, it tends to melt a lot more quickly.
Yeah. So let's aim. And give them that like nice month. Maybe it'll be, I know it's April shower brings many flowers, but let's see if we can get them even a couple of weekends, changes the P&L for restaurants. Okay. So thank you for that. I see more work for Stuart. Every time we have a meeting, Stuart walks away with more work. It's a shame that we have to go into a whole change of the legislation to do this, but okay. That's new business, Martha. I think that's all I had. I don't know if anybody else had. We usually don't have very much. Oh, I think there's visitor recognition next, right, Martha?
Hold on, are we doing that as continuing business, as new business? Because we were under continuing
I'm
business.
sorry. We're going to new business. Thank you.
It's okay. Sorry to clarify. Is there new business of the board? Nope. Okay. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but of relevance to the common good of the village? If so, please raise your virtual hand and we will put you over.
I see someone. Hello, Gretchen.
One moment, I'm going to bring Gretchen over. Gretchen, I'm going to bring you over if you can just hang tight. I might have to just allow her to talk. My system is trying to update itself. Gretchen, if you come off of mute, you should be able to speak.
All right. What do I join as panelist or stay as attendee?
You're going to stay as an attendee. I can't, I'm trying to
Okay,
bring you
that's what I
over.
did.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah, everyone can hear you. So,
Okay. I can talk now?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a quality of life. First of all, thank you all for, I mean, I sat through this whole meeting and I'm totally amazed at what you do. It's mind-boggling. And Dana, for that fabulous video you did of the village. It's amazing. Makes you want to live here.
Yeah, she gives autographs Saturday at noon.
Where?
Market Square. Where else?
Okay. All right.
You know where I live, Gretchen.
I know where you live.
It's nice to see you again, Gretchen.
Thank
Although I'm not
you.
seeing you, but I know
All
you're there.
right. This is a quality of life issue. It's those cars with that make a lot of noise and spew fumes. There are 3 of them on my street, and I don't know what can be done about it. But they're jarring. They make a lot of noise, and I have a friend on Noel who can hear them. So.
Are the mufflers changed in some way, or what? When you say noisy, what have they been modified in some way?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but I guess so. I mean, there'd be 2 or 4 of them in the back. My car only has 1. So.
And so what is it that you're asking or
I don't know. I
suggesting?
don't know if there's anything that can be done about them. They don't make Ossining really green between the noise and between the noise pollution and the air pollution. And there are 3 on my street on Tompkins.
Okay, I'm a little bit stumped because I don't know what it is that we can do about it.
I believe there was a law that was passed that it makes them illegal, that the governor passed.
Okay.
It's,
Kevin, Stuart, anybody know anything about this? Because I don't.
The law was, if they're illegally modified, it's S784-B/A 471.
So that's a bill, but New York State VTL 375-31 would prohibit somebody from having a car with a modified muffler that's made to make excessive noise. If there's an issue with cars driving with modified mufflers in a particular area, we'll deploy resources to check for that and see if we find it. In terms of spewing fumes or something to that effect that the woman said.
Yeah.
I that's an emissions thing, and if cars are inspected, then they've been inspected by the agencies tasked by the state to check for those kind of things. We don't have a mechanism for testing fumes coming
Got
from
it.
cars outside
Okay.
of.
So I think the
Um,
suggestion here by the chief, if I'm not mistaken, is to send him an email and give him a little bit of detail. Am I right,
Well,
chief?
Well, certainly people can, I cannot be the sole point of contact for all 35,000 people in Ossining, but people absolutely can call the desk and ask for help in
Okay.
the neighborhoods, and we connect them with supervisors. For sure, contacting the police department is always the right thing to do when somebody needs some help. So I will pass that on since I'm here and I've gotten that. But yeah, sure, people should always be able to call us if they need something.
And was there something else that you wanted to bring to our attention?
No, thank you. That was it.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's very jarring and disturbing. It's disturbed my peace and quiet. You can't, like, you're taking a Zoom class or whatever, and this thing comes up in outside your house.
Okay. Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll see
It's
if
really
something
loud.
can be done.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Not seeing. Okay. Jamie, you see anything? No, right?
Nope.
Okay. All right, folks. Martha, I
Okay.
think we're done.
Are we adjourning to executive sessions to it, or are we just adjourning the meeting?
Adjourning the meeting, Martha, thank you.
Okay, they can have a motion and a second to adjourn the legislative meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? No? Good.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participation. Every time we have a meeting, we learn something new, and we appreciate the public's involvement from residents to small business and everybody else. Thank you, board. And it is the 19th of January, 9/22, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.